go ahead and jump right in. So intercompany transactions, they're used when there is a parent company and then sub-companies, right, subsidiaries, where maybe the parent company is buying something or able to get a better deal for the whole company, such as insurance as an example, and they need to share those costs with the areas that actually they belong to. And so in the past, you had to keep up with all of those more manually and make sure that if I put it in company A, that I also put in the responsible part for company B in that company as well. Should be kind of more than a sticky note or reminder on the calendar, right? So we're going to talk through intercompany transactions today. So let me move over into our sample files. Now I do have two sample files. They are kind of stacked on top of each other. I will be moving one, but just so you can see what we're going to do. In order for the intercompany to work, you do have to connect them, okay? And I'll kind of go through some of that in a second. But that means that we will have, there's a need for an Intuit login. So you will have to gain access to the files in that fashion, right? But then these two files, I have these connected. That's why I went ahead and changed the color. So I have my parent company in blue. I have my sub company in green. So I'm going to move the sub company over here for just a second, and we're going to start here with the blue one. So let me walk you through a little bit on the setup. So you can access your intercompany transactions here in the company screen. Okay, now I already have them opened. So it opens up this little dashboard. You have your relationships tab, and then you have your transactions tab. Okay, so we're going to start here with the relationships, because this is where we are going to actually make that connection. As you can see here, I have create a relationship. Now I'm not going to go through the full thing since I've already got mine set up, but I do want to show you a few things. Now, one key thing to keep in mind when you do set this up, you cannot unconnect it or disconnect it. Okay, so highly recommend doing a backup on both company files before you get started. That way, if something happens, you change your mind, you can go back to the backup if you need to. The other thing, this is available, well, actually, the intercompany transaction started in 2023 version of Enterprise. It's available in the Accountant, the Platinum, and the Diamond version. Okay, so when I click this, it's going to tell me, and here it's going to make sure that our destination company is already established, right? So you make sure that that's done. Most of the time it is, but if it's not, we want to do that first, and then this is where we have to make sure that we have an Intuit account added, because that's kind of where that bridge occurs. Okay, now once you do the continue, it's going to ask you what company file, and then you'll, once you say yes on that, another thing we need to make sure that we have, and I'm going to go up here to my chart of accounts. So in both files, oh, actually, I think I called it intercompany, we will need to have accounts for the intercompany. So we usually have a due to and a due from, and that will be on both sides. So obviously if it's due to, then the other side's a due from. Okay, so it's just keeping those in mind. I have seen some clients that just create one on each side and it just flows through. They just have to recognize timing. So if it's something where one company doesn't necessarily pay the other one back timely, then that it could look a little interesting on the balance sheet. Now, once the relationship is created, as you can see, I now have pending approval, rejected, approved, and sent for approval. So once a transaction comes in, I'm going to come back to this screen. And again, we get that from company, intercompany transactions. I'm going to come back here so that I can see. Now, anytime you make a change, I highly recommend just doing a refresh. That way it updates the system. So if anything has come in, you will get a notification. If you have something out here and you haven't checked on it in a little bit, you will get a pop-up. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get started on an actual transaction. Now, we are at this time for intercompany transactions, you can do them on a bill or you can do them on a check. So we are going to start with a bill, and then I'll show you how it looks on a check also. Okay, so we can pick our, whoever the vendor is, right, whatever we want to call that. In this case, because this was my parent company, I'm going to say that we're buying whatever it is from Walmart, and we're buying it on behalf of the sub company, okay? We're limited to a single line. Now, because I have clicked this, if I go up here to click on Intercompany, I'm going to get this message, okay? It needs to be, you need to click the Intercompany first and then start your transaction, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and say yes and continue, let that clear out. Also get this reminder every time, unless I click my box that says you can only add one line at a time, okay? Which is, it's okay, right? Because we can work through that if we have multiple lines, but we're going to focus on the single line today. So I'm going to go ahead and say we're buying this from Walmart, put in my reference number. Everything is exactly the same for my bill. The difference comes in here. So as you see, I don't have item here. When I click on the drop down, I have my company name or names if you have more than one. I actually have one client that she's got 6 different companies that she was able to connect. And so because they've got the parent and all these subs, she's able to take the transactions and split them between the companies and do those one time. And then when she goes into the sub company, she takes care of all those transactions at one time. Okay, so I'm going to click this one. This allows us to choose the account. Right? So it's got any of these, but again, we want to put it to our due from account, and we can put in our amount. As you see over here, this is showing it is an intercompany transaction, so it's identified it in that fashion. It is showing as not sent. Now, when I do hit save, and I'm going to hit this up here just so you can see, right? So when I hit save, it now shows as pending. So I will not be able to do anything with this bill until I get an approval. Okay, so that's important. If it's something that's in a hurry, right? You might have to run down the hall, make a phone call, whatever, to tell somebody to approve it. It usually doesn't take a long time before it actually shows up on the other side. Now, that one's pending. Before I go over to that sub company, I want to show you what the check looks like, okay? So again, when we came into the bill, we click intercompany to identify that it's an intercompany transaction, do the rest. But when I come up here to write a check, like you need to have a valid bank account. Oh, let me do that real quick. Let me just add that bank. Okay, so I've got my account here, and I'm going to come in here and pay it to whoever, right? But because I clicked on this, right, if I go to click intercompany, it's going to do the exact same thing, okay? So we've got it now marked as intercompany. I'm going to come on in here, do my thing over here. I'm going to write the check for $500. Once I click intercompany, it changes that again from an item to a company. I have my same list. I have my same account. See? Put my amount in there. I have the option to do the memo. And again, this is showing not sent. So it makes it pretty visual for us to be able to see kind of what's going on. And sorry, Sylvia, we got a question in here. It is not in the contractor's version unless you have Diamond or Platinum. So now we've got this as not sent. I'm going to go ahead and save from up here just so we can see that it changes. And once that updates, then it will show as pending. Okay, now I'm going to bring up our sub account. I'm sorry, our sub company. So let me get out of here. So I have the same screen in here, right? I get to it the same way, right? Because it's the same thing. But I'm going to go ahead and refresh this one. Okay, so I have my relationship here. I have my transactions here, right? So for me to see the transactions that came in, and here they are. So we can see the ones that we created a few minutes ago, plus the others. Now, let's talk through this a little. So these are pending approval, right? So these are the ones I need to focus on first. Now I can, so when I go in here, I have the option to reject. Now the key thing to remember on a rejected transaction is once I reject and accept the rejection, or say that I want it to be rejected, those transactions cannot be changed on either side. So if I come in and reject the wrong one, so let's say that I thought this one was this, so I rejected this because it wasn't the right amount, and then realized, uh-oh, I rejected the wrong one, then the other company will have to create that transaction again and send it back, okay? Because once the rejection's done, it's done. All right, now, if I need to see that though, I have the screen so I can see the rejected, and this is again on both sides, right? So whatever I'm sending or working on, I'll be able to see the status of those. So the approved, if I have some that have been approved, they will show up here, and then anything I have sent for approval is here. So let's go look at that screen real quick on the other file. So let's go, whoops, I want in here, and I'm going to go to my transaction screen. So I don't have anything here pending approval, right? Because it's not, I sent them out. So if I go over here though, those same 4 here, because it is that company, right? The one that I sent, those same 4 are here. Okay. All right. So we just have to understand which button pertains to what we're trying to do. So for this bill, we're going to look at it. I do need to come in here and put in some sort of an expense account. Okay. And I will need to do that for all of these. Now, I'm going to go ahead and on this one, I'm going to reject it so that you can see that process too. So it won't be added. And again, we know we can't change them, so we'll go ahead. But it does at least give you the option to say, oh, wait a minute, I need to think through this. Do I really want to do that? Well, we do. So I'm going to go ahead and reject it. It's going to go through and process for a second. Now, oops, it takes a second. So because I hadn't saved these or approved them, right, I'm going to need to come back and do this again. So let's just put in our account numbers in here. And now you can see the transaction type here. I am going to go through, we'll look at some reports so you can see how the transactions flow on both sides as well. So I'm going to go ahead and approve. All right, then we get that it's approved. Now that is going to go back to the other file. So before I finish these, let's just go look and see what it's done. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and refresh here. All right, so now because 2 of those we took action on, the other 2 are still pending, I get a pretty real view on how to do this, right? On what it looks like. So if I come over here though, there's mine that I approved. I can come in here and view it. So there's my bill, shows it's intercompany. It does classify that as approved, or shows the status as approved, in which case when I come in here, right, to, whoops, I want to go over here to pay bills, I have that one ready to pay. Okay, now before, right, so we have those other bills that are still pending approval. They're not in here, so I can't pay those yet until that approval happens. All right, so let's go back in here because there's one more thing I want to show you. So that one that got rejected, it is in here, right? So I can come here, I can view it. It shows rejected. If I try to change, right, and I try to save, it won't let me. It takes it back, which I think is good, right? Because that way you don't have the whole back and forth where the confusion can step in. You know that, okay, this was rejected. There is a way that you can put a note on there to say why it was rejected. And so they can come back and fix that and reissue. Okay, so don't have anything here. I'm going to go back to our company file over here so that we can go ahead and finish this, and then we'll start looking at the reports. So let me put this into this account and approve. All right, there's that one. And let me do this one. Now it's up, I mean, it's doing a refresh whenever I click the approve. Back when I first started working with this one, you had to click the refresh a lot. So one of the things that if you do this, you'll have a more up-to-date, more real-time. So I usually do a lot of refreshing just to make sure I have the most recent. Okay, so now we've got all of these done. I have the 1 rejected. I have the 3 approved. I don't have anything sent to approval. Now, remember, this is our sub company. So let's say that we bought something that is actually the responsibility of the parent company. Well, I can do the same thing back. Okay, so I'm going to come in here. Let's go ahead and do a bill. Same thing. We're going to click that first. We're going to put in, oops, I got to add one in here. Let me just do, all right. So we're going to just put this in there, put our reference number, right? But again, it's clicking this over here for the company. There's that. My account is here. Now I'm actually going to change this to do 2 and 5,000. Okay, I can still do my memos, all the same thing. Now let's save that. Once that processes, then it's going to have the thing that it's pending. And then that way, the admin on the parent company, when they go in to do their part on the intercompany, it will show. Now, again, the reason this is so important is that we want to make sure that each company reflects the transactions that they own or that belong to them, right? Because the parent needs to make sure that they're sharing that the expenses for each company and not trying to, because otherwise you don't have a clear picture of how the company or businesses are doing, in which case, right, you don't know if you need to make a change or if you need to do something else. So making sure that we're sharing those amongst the companies is important. Now, one of the things that has come up, and I'm going to go back to the client I have that has multiple attached accounts or companies, when she pays insurance, as an example, well, because she's got the multiple companies and we can only do a single line, what she does is she will take, and this is kind of a workflow that we work through. So she'll take the one big bill, and then she uses the reference number dash the company name and splits it up. So she can still do the one line, but when she goes to pay it, she has to make sure that she's including all 6 of those, or 7 in this case, because the parent company has a portion too. So it's not exactly, in her situation, it's not exactly a 1-for-1, but the workflow is easy, and she does, in that case, she's allowed to reconcile not only the main bill, but she can reconcile to the company. And because we can come in here and reconcile those intercompany accounts, then you can actually reconcile to 0 and make sure that everything is there, and then compare, right, the main company or parent company to each individual sub, so that you can make sure that all transactions are flowed into the right P&L balance sheet. Okay. And for those of you that are not aware, you can reconcile most of the balance sheet accounts just like you would. So you could actually put it in balance to 0 so that you can keep up, make sure that everything is accounted for. You don't have duplicate entries. You don't have anything missed, that sort of thing. All right, so let's go look at our financials. So if I come in here, because we did have some things go through, so if I look at this, I'm just going to do all because I think I have them all. Yeah, I do. So if I come in here and look at this one, because this is one we just approved, there it comes into the sub company as a journal entry. So even though we entered it as a bill at the parent level, it came in here as a journal entry reflecting the expense account and then where it came from, right? So this is showing that it actually came in from the parent company for continuing education. They paid that on my behalf. Okay, so let's go look at that other one. So if I look at this, this is the one I just did. Yeah, that's the one I just did. So I guess I put both the continuing education. Anyway, so it's going to show you what it is. It also gives you the memo for the vendor so that you'll know who was actually paid. Right now, again, because we have that approval process, we should not have any surprises on our financials. But if we do, right, then at least it makes it easy for us to go look at. Now let's go look at the other file and look at those reports so that we can actually see what that looks like too. So let's go back here. Okay, so again, we don't have anything. Whoops, we still have those pending. That means I need to refresh. All right, so there's the one. We have the projected, the approved, and then I have an extra one out there that's from earlier when I was playing. So now let's go look at the reports on this side. So if we look at our P&L, nothing there. I go look at my balance sheet. There they are. So I have the due to, the due from. And because I had a bill or a few bills, right, that I was paying, I have now AP. So the parent company is paying all this, but because we use that intercompany feature, I don't have to go back to the second company and do anything except the approval because I was able to take care of all of that at one spot. So it does help in so many ways to kind of automate somewhat that process. All right, looks like we have a couple of questions. Does QuickBooks Online have this feature? At this point in time, I do not believe that they do unless there's a new workflow. So we'd have to go in and check the workflow page. I'm not sure why you're not able to join through your PC. That may be a setting on your side. I'd have to have a little bit more information on that. Okay, so we're getting close to time. I thank you all for being with me today. I do hope that you were able to get something from this. I do look forward to hearing from you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. As I mentioned at the beginning, we have many services to help our clients get to the next level and learn. And if this is a feature that you need to have started, because that setup sometimes can be a little tricky, right? Let us know. We would be happy to help you. So I hope everyone has a good week, or at least the rest of it. And thank you again for joining. I appreciate your time today.